The homes in the Mat-Su rely on heating oil, and when the price hit nearly $5 a gallon this summer, that prompted many Valley homeowners to consider alternatives, and some have turned to burning coal. It's an abundant natural resource, but is it a safe heat source? We try to find the answer in tonight's Closer Look. Winter arrived earlier than usual this year in the Mat-Su. And the cost to stay warm has prompted some homeowners to make new investments.
We're hoping to cut our fuel costs here this year in half of what we had from last year.
Houston homeowner Roger Purcell recently bought a coal stove. He says the cost to fill both his heating oil tanks was emptying his bank account. And when oil costs skyrocketed this summer, he decided to look at another renewable heat source. And he used his family's energy resource rebate checks and bought a coal furnace.
For the price and the reduction of fuel, it made it very cost efficient. Just in the first month and a half, the furnace will pay for itself.
Purcell says at first he was skeptical about using coal.
Well, I remember as a kid, we used to have the old 55-gallon drum in my grandfather's shop out here when he was delivering the tractors, and he'd bring the big chunks of coal in and throw the wood and throw it in there, and of course it leaked and the smoke and the smell, and so I was always, like, yeah, I don't want coal in my house. I don't want the dirty stuff around here and the smell and having to shovel it out.
But he told us he learned more about it from his neighbors, who had told Purcell they were able to really cut back on using heating oil.
I was just joking around with him, and I said, well, how much did you spend last year? And he goes, I only went through about 500 gallons for the winter. And that stopped me dead in my tracks, and I'm like, yeah, right. It's just kind of kidding around with him. And he goes, no, I put in a coal furnace stove.
Coal will outlast wood, probably 2 to 1, I would say.
Walt and Dodie Clifford built their home last year and decided to install a coal stove because of the lack of wood in Houston.
We didn't know much about it. We're used to burning wood where we used to live. But I'm very, very pleased with the coal.
The Cliffords have an oil furnace, but use the coal stove as their primary heat source. Heating their nearly 3,000 square foot home requires about 5 tons of coal.
That's 5 ton of coal. Well, hopefully that'll last me through probably into March.
Walt says he paid $200 a ton for this year's supply. Coal may be cheaper, but it does require work. Walt transfers the coal from a nearby shed to the front porch and uses coffee cans to keep from touching it while feeding the stove. The Cliffords say they were surprised to see what little mess it makes.
Right now, you get a little dust from the ashes when you clean the ashes out.
I tell them it's not like you see in the old Western movies.
Rick Dilley is the owner of Cozy Coal. He says coal burns a lot more efficiently than wood and is a lot cheaper than heating oil.
Fuel and natural gas are a convenience. If you can afford the convenience, good for you.
Dilley used to burn firewood until he learned about coal, which prompted him to get into the business.
I consider coal 80% easier than firewood. You know what the coal's going to be like. Firewood, you never know what you're going to get.
The coal Dilley distributes comes from Healy. He says it has been rated the cleanest coal in the nation because it has very low sulfur, which causes negative side effects like acid rain.
People have a misconception about coal. Especially new clean burning technology is not the fuel of the past, it's the fuel of the future.
But even on a small scale, there are some negative impacts associated with coal.
It's important that they look at what the impacts of that decision might be to them and to other people around.
Tim Leach lives in the Mat-Su and is the organizer for the newly formed Alaska Coal Working Group. He says emissions from burning coal have nitrogen oxides, the culprit for smog. But according to Leach, coal is not very healthy even before it's burned.
Particulates even before burning coal, as you're handling it, as you're moving the coal from wherever you're extracting it to your location that you're storing it on your property is something there.
He says even though coal from Healy has been rated the cleanest, that does not mean it doesn't contain the other harmful particulates and emissions.
But we still, at this point, have extraordinarily expensive energy costs. We need something that produces clean and reliable power. And coal isn't going to be that source, whether it's at the residential level or at the utility level.
As Mat-Su homeowners consider alternatives to get through the winter and try to find a balance between saving money and taking care of the environment. According to Tim Leach, the Alaska Energy Authority is looking at alternative heat source solutions to hopefully someday help homeowners who are stuck paying for expensive heating oil.
Has the price of heating oil come down since the summer?
Well, it's actually fluctuated since then, but yes, it has come down drastically. Like I had mentioned, it was almost $5 a gallon. Now it's just a little over $3, but many Matsu homeowners filled up months ago when it was really expensive, and then the price dropped.
Oh,
yeah.
Thanks, Lori.
All right,
Lori,
interesting.
thanks for
Thanks, Lori.